Now let's try to understand what is algebraic expression. So until now what we understood is what is a mathematical expression. So which was 2 plus 3 equals to 5 was my mathematical expression, because I had two numbers here and a mathematical operation. So according to the definition of algebraic expression, what does it say? This algebraic expression, it actually has variables, constants, and some mathematical operation, just like the same one as before, but only the difference is we have variables here. So let's just take an example and then try to explain with an example. Let's take 2x plus 3 is just an algebraic expression. 2 is a coefficient, x is a variable, and 3 is a constant. Let's understand all these three things. So first let's start with 2. 2 is a coefficient. So can I call 3 as a coefficient? No, because 2 is attached with a variable. So that becomes coefficient of x. So coefficient of x is 2. X is a variable. We'll come back to that variable. Let's look at constant 3. So 3 is a constant. The reason why we call this as a constant is that the value does not change. Value doesn't change. Whereas the 2, we talked about 2 as coefficient. So 2 as coefficient. So 2 is a number which is also called as numerical coefficient. Numerical coefficient. So numerical coefficient. So now coming back to variable x, a variable can be represented with any alpha characters. In the sense, not only x, it can actually have a, b, c until z. So the same expression I can also write it as 2a plus 5. Still an algebraic expression which has a variable, a coefficient, and a constant. So let's see why we actually call these alpha characters as variables. A variable is represented with, as I said, represented with any of the alpha characters. Let's take x as a variable which is unknown. I don't know what is the value of x. X can take up any value. So in the sense, if I give a value to x, the value of x becomes that value. In the sense, if I say x is 5, x will be 5. If I say x is 7, x will be 7. Let's try to understand this with an example, because just by writing x, maybe you might not understand. Let's see, x plus 5 is an algebraic expression. So what is the value of this total operation? There is addition operation. What is the value of this? I won't be able to find out any answer until I give a value to x. 5 is a constant. 5 stays as 5. Nothing changes. So x is the one which is actually going to take any value which we assign. So let's just say x is 1. So my total value, or the sum of this, is actually going to become 6. So if I say x is 10, the sum of that is actually going to be, is going to be 15. So value of x varies. So remember exactly, variable means varies. It varies. Value of x varies or changes according to the value given by us. So now, after understanding algebraic expression, let's see how do we actually use this in our daily life. So we might, no one goes to a shop and then start asking, okay, where do I use x? Where do I use any variable in an expression? So there are certain calculations if it is in computer programming. So you use them as variables and then you assign the values and then you find the result based on whatever program or whatever you're trying to calculate. Let's just take simple examples in our daily life. For example, person A has 5 chocolates. Person B has 7 times person A's chocolates. So what does it mean? If he has 5 chocolates, he has 7 times, so that means I have 7 into 5, which is 35. He has 35 chocolates. We'll get back to this times, but if you are actually talking about in terms of just usual speaking, so that's what we do. In my head, this is what is going on. 7 into 5 is 35 chocolates. So now in this example, what we did is I have assigned a number. There are numbers here. So instead of that, if I say person A has X number of pencils and person B has 5 times as of person A. What does that mean? He has 5 times pencils compared to person A. So instead of 5, I've used X. So here this is actually going to be 5 into X, which is 5 into X, which is 5X. We'll come to operations on algebraic expressions later, but in this, just understand what is algebraic expressions, how we actually use it, and mainly understand variables, constants, and the normal operations which are done on algebraic expressions. So until now, I think you must have understood the concepts and mainly the variables. Let's take another example, because once you start with algebraic expressions, most of your questions will be just to identify certain things. So for example, if I take x minus y, algebraic expression. So what is the constant here? That is my phi. So usually if you ask me, whenever you are going for any of these values, go with the sign. Very important, go with the sign. My constant is minus phi. That is my constant. Variable is x, is the variable, that is variable. And where is my coefficient? So if nothing is there, there is 1 behind, so that is my coefficient. Remember this, very important. Don't not to forget, because when we start performing operations on algebraic expressions such as multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, you need to remember that if there is nothing, there is 1. You might have studied in previous standards, 1 is multiplicative identity, in the sense any number or variable multiplied by 1 is actually going to give you the same number or same variable. So that's the reason 1 is coefficient. Minus phi, actually if you look at it, if there is nothing, it's also plus. Plus 1 is my coefficient. So after that, one more thing which you need to understand is term. What are term or terms? Although we have written expressions something like that, 2x plus 5. So if I look at it, this is one term, that is one term. There are 2 terms in this. Very important, many students actually make mistake in not understanding terms. So try to understand, terms are separated by plus or minus. They are not separated by multiplication or division. So let's take an example. 2x, what does it mean? It's 2 multiplied by x. Although it is multiplication, it's totally considered as a term. That's a full term. X divided by 2 minus 5. So what happens here? This is actually written as 1 by 2 multiplied by x. That becomes my coefficient, that is my variable, but together makes a term. So understand terms, understand variables, how we actually use them in expressions.